I kind of feel like skateboarding relates a lot to, okay, hold on. Let's back it up. A lot of people, okay, thesis. Skateboarding is conceptual art, period. A lot of people feel like, okay, skateboarding is like conceptual art. It essentially is conceptual art, but it's also very much a sport, but not so much a sport as I feel like it relates less to sports, but it's more like esports. Okay, what the fuck am I saying? Hold on. I'm sorry, okay? Cut me a goddamn motherfucking break. So, I just think it's really interesting. Okay, so what do we consider, maybe not conceptual art, but what if we said ephemeral art? Something kind of impermanent, like music, for example. We, in the 21st century, human beings, we consider music and audio-based art to be permanent and to be something that can be widely and easily and rapidly distributed, literally globally, and so it feels extremely permanent to record something. But if you really think about it, it's not. I mean, like, imagine this. Like, do you think Neanderthals and cavemen could sing or make music? It's like, maybe, but I don't know, whatever. I mean, even think about this. Like, when the fuck was, like, music recording even invented? Like, let's find out right the fuck now. A cursory motherfucking Google search tells me, like, the late 1800s, people first started beginning to record audio, but, like, a lot of our most prized and lauded music was written by people like Beethoven and Bach, who were not alive when they could be recorded. It was written. So I guess what I'm saying is that music is, in essence, an art form that only exists when the artist is present and performing it. Sure, there were once written examples of the music notation that could be read by those with the proper education and knowledge. Sure, it could be repeated and sung and recited, whatever. But in its truest form, a musical piece of art could not exist unless it was being performed. It's almost like oratory and storytelling throughout a lot of American history, for example. Like, I mean, speeches and public forum are an important part of any music community or ideology, but, people didn't have fucking Facebook, obviously, but they also might not have had ready access to newspapers or printing services, etc. You know what I mean? Maybe not a lot of people were even literate at the time when oratory was crazy important and common, So it kind of like, I feel like this is something I've actually talked about on this podcast before, but, to just think about conceptual art in the context of extremely common art like music, which I kind of consider, in a sense, a people's medium, because there are I don't know, and by that I mean a type of art that isn't accessible by everybody, in the sense that it can be consumed readily and easily. I mean, most art can be consumed readily and easily, but music can be learned readily and easily, much more easily than a lot of other types of art, like academic painting, academic sculpting, blah, 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 blah. Like, that shit is very expensive to learn. It's very difficult to learn. It takes a very long time, and it usually can't be learned unless you are a person of a certain class and socioeconomic background. So, with that being said, music is absolutely not that way. You could buy a guitar for $40 at a pawn shop, or buy it for fucking $5 to $10 at a secondhand store, and you can learn it, especially nowadays where the playing field is so seriously leveled through music lessons on YouTube. Like me, I play guitar very fluently. You know, I am a musician. I am not by any means some kind of like professional or like, you know, some great soloist, but I am a completely competent guitar player and songwriter, and I am absolutely not a prodigy. I never have taken a lesson in my life. I started playing when I was 17, and I fucking learned everything I know on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, it is almost like Marxist in a sense, where like the means of learning how to play guitar belong to anybody who can afford a guitar, which, to your surprise, actually is like quite accessible, you know. And I think that's really interesting, because we see that, and like I feel like this is a very, very similar effect as skateboarding. To bring us back to my original point, skateboarding is the same way. You can buy, you know, a piece of shit like random skateboard for $10 or something, but a professional, like real skateboard that I think would be, you know, efficient for a beginner or a professional would cost you $100 if you're getting a good deal, or if you're getting it from, I don't know, if you're on a budget, which still is relatively affordable. And it kind of, one thing I think is really interesting is that also is a people's medium, to consider it a medium. I'll get into that in a second, but skateboarding is, so it's inexpensive. At the time right now, you know, vert skating or skate park skating, ramp skating in general, or really technical stuff isn't exactly necessary. You don't need to be a great bowl skater to be a very good skater. You don't need to be able to ride mega ramps and fucking half pipes and this and that, or even know your way around a concrete park. That shit just isn't necessary to be good. Blah, 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 blah. What am I trying to say? But I think what's really interesting about skateboarding is that it's totally, totally fucking creative. And there are people that invent tricks. They invent new ways of doing things. Everything is like a fingerprint style. No two people skate the same. Just like art, just like music. You know, me and any other guitar player could play the same scale. But I mean, like, maybe we could do it identically if we tried as hard as we possibly could. But even still, just even hearing somebody's instrumentals, it has a style, you know what I mean? Even though we usually think of style in terms of music having to do with kind of energy rather than notation or technical implementing of certain things. But even still, even when you do basic things, even when you do technical things, there still is, in essence, a stylistic difference, even if subtle, to anything that anybody does with skateboarding, just as music is. So, why is skateboarding an ephemeral art? I mean, think about it. It's like, not really, I don't know, maybe there are a lot of skateboarders that don't give a shit about art or really wouldn't agree with me, but I guess have to say about it is, like, you know, there's the inventive nature, there's the innovative nature, there's even a kind of performance element to a lot of skateboarding. But there's also the fact that skateboarding is about action, performance, and documentation, which most conceptual and performance art is completely about. A conceptual art piece might involve somebody doing something that would not be considered a liberal art or a real piece of art. It may not be in a traditional medium. It may not be a performance happening in front of an audience, etc. But what is happening is somebody is doing something interesting, innovative, or, I don't know, just weird, and they document it and then they display it. That's literally like what skateboarding is doing, you know? Like, if I am like trying to film and edit, you know, for Instagram or something, you know, I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to do it however long it takes. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to curate it. I'm going to do whatever. and then I'm going to post it, and I'm going to then distribute that. But why on earth, like, I what am I trying to say? Like, but I guess the kind of key point here is that there would really not ever be a situation in which I would try to gather people in some type of illusionist, stuntman, enduring way to get people to witness me doing the thing that I filmed, I guess is what I'm saying, just like in the way that a conceptual artist would. And also, one thing that's really interesting about conceptual art and skateboarding is that conceptual art is notoriously difficult to monetize, and like, not in the sense that it isn't marketable, because there are a lot of conceptual art pieces that generate a lot of money for contemporary art galleries and a lot of things in the art world. But just like conceptual art, you can't sell a skateboarding trick. You cannot sell, what am I trying to say? You cannot sell the performance. It is an ephemeral art of a performative nature that is then documented during the process of innovation, of risk taking, of action taking, and then is distributed and presented to an interested audience. And like, I don't know, man, I just think that's really fucking cool, because while skateboarding may not be at the cutting edge and vanguard of contemporary culture, it is still a very, very interesting and beautiful thing, simply because it's fucking cool. But also, one kind of more profound piece of this is that skateboarding, just like guitar playing and music, is a people's medium, you know? And like, there's probably a lot of people that are very, very good at skateboarding and that are very, very interested in skateboarding, that maybe in a different lifetime would have been very, very interested in music production. Maybe they would have been interested in conceptual performance art. Maybe they would have been interested in art history or fucking, I don't know, like fucking digital programming, whatever. But for one reason or another, maybe it was for economic reasons, maybe social, maybe just for no fucking reason at all, they became a skateboarder. They joined a subculture that is cheap. It is based and rooted in taming and conquering a pre-existing environment, aka streets, handrails, fucking banks, like all these different, you know, obstacles and environmental, you know, parts of society. You know, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but you know, it is something, I guess the professional skateboarder to me feels a lot more like an everyman and like a relatable and more, I guess a skateboarder to me seems more likely to be representative of the population consuming the culture, rather than, you know, somebody with a lot of money who might be very academic or might be kind of not out of touch, but definitely kind of alienated from the culture that it is trying to market to, you know? So, I don't know, though. I know that might be kind of an unpopular take, you know, and I don't know. I don't really want to pigeonhole people who went to art school or, like, people from, like, different socioeconomic backgrounds, you know? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that people of all backgrounds of really any kind are capable of making beautiful art, but I just think that when there are mediums and modes of expression that are cheap, are common, and do not involve any of the liberal arts or traditional art mediums, we really have to pay attention to those things, because if we are only giving credence to painting, if we're only giving credence to sculpture, if we're only taking seriously art that is taught in schools, then we are really only paying attention to people that can afford college. We're only paying attention to people who are probably affluent, who are probably white, who are probably from fucking Western countries, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are completely alienating and leaving out massive, huge parts of society that deserve to be heard and have beautiful and interesting voices and so much to offer, you know?